The essence of teaching is to make learning contagious. To have one idea, spark another, by Marva Collins. With this quote, I wish you all a very good afternoon to all. I would like to invite all the participants for the third day FDP program on outcome-based education. Today we have with us Dr. Achyuta Sankar sir, Professor and Head Department of Computational Biology and Bioinformatics, University of Kerala. Before going to start this session, I request the participant to mute their mic, and we will be providing the attendance link at the end of this program. Kindly fill the attendance, and if you have any clarification, it will be clarified at the end of the session. So thank you. Now I welcome Professor Gajendran to give welcome address and introduce the chief guest. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to deliver a welcome address and introduce our beloved, respected chief guest, Achyuta Sankar sir. And so first of all, I welcome our respected chief guest, Achyuta Sankar sir. And I welcome our principal, sir, Dr. Raja Samuel. I welcome Dr. Joseph Injode, former director, Rajagiri College. I welcome all our colleagues who are working with us in MSSW. I welcome other faculty members from other colleges. And I welcome you all for the third day of this session, which is going to be delivered by our respected chief guest, Achyuta Sankar sir. With this, now I move into introducing our respected chief guest, Achyuta Sankar. Yes, Nair sir. So, sir is professor at Computer Science, University of Kerala, and he is heading the Department of Computational Biology and Bioinformatics. He is educated from IIT Bombay, University of Cambridge, University of Kerala, and he has two PhDs, one in engineering and the other in music. He is visiting professor and teacher in various institutions in India as well as abroad. He has led various IT development projects as director of CDIT, Government of Kerala, for 3 years. He has authored 15 books in English and Malayalam. He has successfully guided over 25 PhD scholars. And as a founder director of International Academics in University, he has implemented credit transfer system for 14 US students. He has served as Director of Quality Assurance, University Startup Center during 2015 and 18. Sir has held membership in Kerala State Higher Education Council, Syndicate and Senate member of Kerala University, and various other positions. He is also invited to deliver talk on music in Madras Music Academy, Kalakshetra, and Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, Bangalore. He received several awards from Kerala government. He has received several awards. One from Kerala government, Young Scientist Award in 1991, and he has received Engineering Teacher National Award in 1994 by ISTE. He has received a National Teachers Award by Indian National Science Academy, and etc. And apart from an academician, he is also culture and heritage activist, and he has constructed a house in a mud, and he has very interesting profile. I would like, before ending the introduction of our beloved, respected Professor Achyuta Sankar S. Nair, I would like to mention the quote in his web page. The quote was by Jerome Bruner: "Anything can be taught to anyone." So it's very interesting quote by Jerome Bruner, and we can find the quote in our chief guest Achyuta Sankar sir's website. So yes, sir, with this quote, I request you to present your deliver your lecture and teach us on outcome-based education, a curriculum framework. I request you to take over the session, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, you have to
Sir,
unmute yourself, sir.
unmute your mic, sir.
Okay. Can you also enable my video? I cannot see whether I'm in the frame
Yeah,
or not.
you are in the
Yes, sir,
screen.
you are on
only,
the frame, sir.
Frame only.
How do I see that?
Can you pin it, Professor Gajendran? You can pin the.
Sir,
I don't get it.
he has to pin, I think so, sir.
Where do I do that in participants?
Sir, that will be available in Gmail, Google Meet only, sir.
No, we can pin in Zoom also.
Okay.
Yeah, but I cannot see any video. Only those who are speaking I can see. You know, when you speak, you have to have a feedback. So you need to see how you are positioned. Is it possible to do that? Normally it says what way people have to be. All people are shown.
Okay. Sir, would you like the participant to switch on their videos?
No. The thing is that I would like a few videos to come up, including mine, so that I can get a feel of the class.
Yes, sir.
How is that possible?
Sir, right on top you have a view. So just click on side by side speaker.
View.
Top right you have view.
Mine I don't have. I have start video, share content, participants, more.
Top right corner, sir.
Let me see. Meeting
Sir,
settings.
switch on the show grid videos, sir.
Just a minute. Yeah. Meeting topics, touch up my appearance, close, show name and participant join. Show new video participant. I'm unable to do that. Anyway, I think I won't spend more time on it. I'm unable to see myself. Whether I am being seen or being cut in half, I do not know. Normally it shows a grid view, or it asks for the view to change, but here I don't see that. Let me. Yeah. There is
So
no
now
anyway.
we are not able to see you, only on the table only we are able to see you, sir. We are not able to face you. Yeah, right, sir. This is the right position.
This is a problem, I am in the dark. I am not able to see.
But we are able to see clearly, sir. No issues.
Yeah, but that is not enough. I have to. If you want the feedback,
Understand.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yes, sir.
I will have to compromise on that. So, dear fellow teachers, I'm very happy to take part in this FDP organized by the Madras School of Social Work. I yesterday came and listened for a while to get a feel of the group and feel of the program. I couldn't stay for the whole program, but I did listen to some of it. I hope I will not be overlapping with what the speaker yesterday said. There is no reason why teachers should overlap, because everybody has a personality. The people would present the same thing in different ways, new perceptions, new takes. So I assume that you are going to have some take-home message from what I'm saying. Can you go to the next slide, please? Earlier, the announcement was to talk about national policy of education and outcome-based education. So these are two vast topics. So I thought I will confine to outcome-based education. But if there are any specific questions you participants need to raise about national policy of education, I will be very happy to answer that towards the end. Basically, I don't look at any policy from a political angle alone. We have to, as teachers, we have to really look at it as how we can implement it to the best effect of the education system in our country. So my interest is more in such things rather than making political statements about policies. There are better people than me who can analyze it politically. That is the reason why I don't do that. I'm basically a teacher. So what is outcome-based education? I'm sure all of you know this. All of you have heard this many, many times. So it is designing syllabus, teaching strategies, assignments, and examinations. So I just would like to stress this. It is not simply designing curriculum or designing syllabus, but it is a whole curriculum. Designing syllabus, teaching strategies, assignments, and examinations with focus on what students can do after course completion. So I heard the speaker yesterday also making exactly this statement. So I don't think you're unfamiliar with this. Okay, next. So I put pictures after every slide so that you don't fall asleep and your brain is triggered in very different ways. These slides have nothing to do with the talk, but it is just to hit your brain in a different spot so that you don't feel the drudgery of listening to a talk. Okay, next. So I asked this question: is this a new idea? Is outcome-based education a new idea? Not at all. Many of the our syllabus in many of our institutions, even if they don't claim to be OBE, they do state aims and objectives. But these are, I would say, merely ornamental. They are just stated, but there is no close integration with reality. So, and also these are objectives, sure, but they are not learning objectives. They are rather teaching objectives, as I will demonstrate soon. You know, education is unknown to many of us. Many times is teacher-centric. You know, you look at, I heard this interesting observation by a school teacher. You know, the board in the school, the blackboard in the school is positioned to suit the teacher. The teacher has to comfortably write on it. So in the first standard or the second standard, the small kids are sitting there. This board is not their most appropriate position, but it is designed to meet the requirement of the teacher. So we can say that we can find out many things which are teacher-centric rather than student-centric. And these aims and objectives is one. These aims and objectives are stated for the teacher. Of course, what the teacher does affects the student. So in a way, it indirectly are learning objectives. So LOCF is explicitly student or learning centric, not teacher or teaching centric. And it also, the outcomes are not simply merely ornamental outcomes. They are explicit learning outcomes that are measurable, specific, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. These are the 5 key words that OBE practitioners use: measurable, specific, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So I concede that teaching objectives do indirectly indicate learning outcomes, but in any case, in the outcome-based education strategy, it is not enough to indirectly indicate. You have to explicitly indicate learning outcomes, and also these outcomes have to be measurable, specific, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Next. Next. So let me look at these keywords which we used. What is or what is not a specific or measurable outcome? So I give you this example: not specific and not measurable. You say that after completing the course, the student has to have basic numeric skills. This is not specific and measurable because people might interpret basic numeric skills in many ways. So specific and measurable is, after this course, let us say it is a school course, the student is able to add 2-digit numbers. It's very specific and it is measurable because you can give 2-digit numbers and ask the student to add. Whereas has basic numeric skills is subject to a lot of interpretation. So outcome-based education looks for specific and measurable. While I use the word measurable, I must tell you, it is a very interesting thing in education or in social sciences. We say everything that exists in some quantity and therefore is measurable. Everything that exists in some measure and therefore it must be measurable. That means everything is measurable. But let us not go to that extreme step. Let us say that it has to be realistically be measurable. That is the point we are having. Now, what changes will, UGC calls it LOCF, not outcome-based education, learning outcome-based curricular framework. So LOCF and OBE are 2 equivalent words. So what will OBE bring? It will bring great clarity for the student, how or what to learn and to expect in exams. For the teacher, how or what to teach and test. Teaching and testing are non-separable activities. Next. Next. So, can you say some people might think of it as LOCF or OB is just adding learning outcomes to syllabus? So, I would say no. Stating the outcomes is only a part of it. When you state outcomes, you see a very realistic situation is you already have a syllabus, you want to transform it into outcome based. So I am actually, my whole lecture is assuming that. We are not talking about developing a completely new degree program and making it outcome based education. We might have a lot of programs running. We want to convert it into outcome based education. So when you write specific outcomes for the syllabus, you understand that there is need to change the syllabus topics, rearrange or add or reorganize. So that means the mere process of stating outcomes has a backward effect, that it goes back and affects the syllabus statement itself. Outcomes and syllabus will have to be tightly coupled with each other. You cannot write any syllabus and then write outcomes. It has to be an iterative process. When you write outcomes, syllabus needs some adjustment. When you adjust syllabus, outcomes need some adjustment. So with a lot of iterations or a lot of changes, this both get settled. And teachers will have to be tuned to addressing outcomes. This is also a part of LOCF. You cannot just put some statements in a document and say that we are outcome based, we have outcome based education. Okay. One of the funds of having online education is that people are revealed to you as human beings, not as scholars or teachers. This very senior professor who is always very grave, it seems he was giving a lecture to his students with all gravity, and suddenly you hear in the background his wife coming and telling him, what the hell is going on? How much time you have been speaking to yourself? Come, cut some vegetables for me. So the very grave professor loses his face in front of his students. So our microphone switch, accidentally the microphone is switched on. We hear a lot of very humane things coming from the participants. So it is also a bit of fun. Okay, and finally, I would say assessment has to be redesigned. This is a major part of the transformation. You cannot have question papers of years and then say that I have added objectives, so now we are outcome-based education. So I would say LOCF is not ornamental. If you want to really implement it, it has to be, it is a very heavy work. Okay, next, please. Next. Okay, what effort is required to change? Effort is required to change to LOCF. Well, we need a major one-time effort. Redesigning the syllabus according to this format, stating the course outcomes and program outcomes. I actually have some difference of opinion here I will share. Modifying the syllabus to dovetail them into the course outcomes and program outcomes, and generating model questions to test outcomes. This is the major one-time effort. Then reorienting teachers towards achievement of outcomes. I don't think that should be a big challenge. We teachers would, given a document, curricular document, we will teach accordingly. But setting assignments and tests or exams to test outcomes is hard work, time consuming, very creative, but will be very rewarding. And this is where the outcome-based education can produce a transformation in our education. Then finally, you have to also be motivating students to understand, adapt, and accept the system, especially the assessment. Now, I need to take 1 minute to, yeah, you can go to the next slide and freeze there, the picture. Yeah, I need to take 1 minute to tell you. See, if you ask me, how do I transform education system in our country to make it better? And if I am given only one action, I would say transform the question paper. Because when you transform the question paper, teaching becomes affected, learning becomes affected, expectation of students become affected, results become affected, quality of students who come out of the institutions become affected. So I would say single point for transformation is the question paper, assessment. So when you are saying you have adopted outcome-based education, I will definitely ask, do you have evidence to show in the form of assessment? Very, very important thing. Making the document and making it look like outcome-based education is a very easy thing to do. Okay, next please. Now I'll give you a small activity. I want you to classify these as learning outcomes or teaching outcomes, teaching objectives. Can you all please try this? And afterwards, please type your answer. You know, if you want this to be effective, please don't change your answer seeing that everybody else is typing something else. Please take half a minute to write 1, 2, 3, 4 at least. So you can do all the 7. I give you 1 minute to do all the 7. You classify what is the statement given as learning outcome or teaching outcome or both. And then I will ask you one by one. When I say statement 1, all of you have to type your observation. 1 minute. You can take 1 minute. You don't need to type now. We wait for everyone to finish. Then I ask 1, then everybody types. Okay, I think everybody is itching to reply, and therefore I think we will start. Number 1, the statement is transform student to a socially committed citizen. Please type your reply as LO, TO, or both. Okay, this is fine. I have got a feel of the answers. Now I will disagree with all the answers. I think nobody said teaching objective. You read that statement. It says transform student to a socially committed citizen. Whom do you think you are addressing? You won't tell the student to transform student. You will only say you must transform. But when you say transform student, it is obviously a dialogue to the teacher, isn't it? Don't you see? Transform student to a socially committed citizen. So I would say it is a teaching objective. So indirectly, it will be a learning objective, but explicitly, it's a teaching objective. Only in very confused situation, you should say both. But here, the statement seems to be addressed towards the teacher. Transform the student. Second one, after we do a few things, then maybe things are better. Second one, to impart legal literacy. Yeah, I think people have fallen into track. It is a teaching objective because it seems to be an instruction to the teacher. The teacher is the one who imparts. So to impart legal literacy. So this is also a teaching objective. Develop communication skills.
That is also same.
Yeah, it can be both, or you can say it is a learning objective also. If you want, you can say it's a learning objective because the student can read that and understand that it is an instruction to the student. Develop communication skills. But somebody can say it is also an instruction to the teacher. If you think so, then make it both. Anyway, it is not a teaching objective alone. That is very for sure. Deliver a brief speech on a topic of their choice. 4. Deliver a brief speech on a topic of their choice. We are now on 4.
Learning
objective. Oh, somebody says teaching objective. How can it be? Because if you tell the teacher After the course, you must deliver a brief speech on topic of their choice. Then you are instructing the teacher. But is the teacher supposed to give a speech or the student? I think it is a very obvious example of an instruction to the student. After the course, the student should deliver a brief speech on topic of their choice. So explicitly, it is a learning outcome. So here we have to understand, these examples are being shown so that we have to understand, when you write these objectives, normally we don't keep in our mind to whom we are writing. So you must always write thinking of the student. When the student reads, it should make sense, it should address the student. So deliver a brief speech on topic of their choice addresses the student directly. So number 5, to capacitate the students in using calculus.
Teaching.
Okay, let us see more replies. Okay. Okay. You see, both is okay. In anything you can say both, but please say that only when you are very confused. Here, to capacitate the students, will you say that to the students? No, you wouldn't. So it is obviously a address to the teacher. That means the person who wrote this is a teacher-centric person. He is talking about the teacher. The syllabus seems to be written by him for the teacher, not for the student. And therefore, it is a teaching objective. Understand factual information on Indian economy.
Learning.
Yeah, because the student can read this and take it as an instruction to the student. So therefore, it is a learning outcome. Somebody can say it is both. I don't disagree, but it is very directly acceptable to a student. Critically evaluate food security and public distribution system in India. This also can be taken up as a learning outcome by the student. So both is where you are very confused as to whether it is learning or teaching. I would say basically the point is, when you write outcomes, you don't be a teacher, you be one of the students, and then phrase it in terms of the student's transformation. You must say what is the transformation that would happen in the student. Never make it an instruction to the teacher, because then that becomes a teacher-centric statement. I hope it is clear. I agree that there could be differences of opinion on this classification, but I request you to see my point of view and consider my point of view. Okay, next. So this is actually, the beautiful picture, you don't need to skip so fast. This is what I see when I look through the window in my department. Now the plant and trees have grown up, but it's a very green campus. Okay, next. Is Lakshmi changing the slides? Oh, thank you. You can also enjoy this picture for a flash of a second.
Sure.
Okay, now I give you one more activity. Here are certain statements given as learning outcomes. On the right side, I have asked 4 questions. Is it measurable? Is it specific? Is it achievable? Is it time-bound? Now, let us take the first one. Demonstrate better social commitment. Let us ask one by one. Is it measurable?
To some extent, sir.
Okay. Is it specific? Is it specific? Is it achievable? Yeah, I could say it is achievable. Is it time bound? Can you do it in 3 months or 4 months to make a person?
No, not possible.
Yeah. So these are the points. I don't want you to think that these all have very agreeable answers, but just think of this. I would say social commitment can be measured, but it will be more measurable if you make it your statement more specific. This is not specific. Is it achievable? It is achievable, but it is not in a time-bound manner. Maybe it will take a long time to achieve. Second one, have basic legal literacy. Is it measurable?
Yes, sir.
Well, it will be measurable, but it will be very difficult to measure because it is not very clear. It is not specific. What is basic legal literacy? Does anyone have a complete agreement of what is basic legal literacy? If you don't have such an agreement, then how can you measure? What do you measure? So it is not specific. I would say it is not specific. Is it achievable? It is achievable. Is it time bound? Well, maybe better than social commitment. You can create a literacy. Third one, have better communication skills.
Measurable.
Is it measurable?
Measurable.
Okay. But please note, you are saying better communication skills. From existing, you have whether you have improved. Okay, anyway, is it specific? Yes and no. Is it achievable? Yes and no. Is it time bound? Yes and no. I am very confused. Deliver a brief speech on topic of their choice. Is it measurable?
Achievable.
Is it specific? I think it is more specific than saying have basic legal literacy. It is more specific. Achievable? Yes. Time bound? Yes and no. Articulate need for gender sensitiveness. Is it measurable? You are not saying being gender sensitive. You are saying articulate the need for gender sensitive. Is it measurable? You are only saying articulate. You don't say the person need not be gender sensitive, but can't you train a student to articulate the need for gender sensitiveness? You can ask them to write an essay on gender sensitiveness. Is it measurable? To my mind, it looks somewhat measurable. Is it specific? It's not too specific, but it is also not as bad as simply saying have better gender sensitivity. Is it achievable? To make a student articulate, it might be achievable in a time-bound manner. But to make the person gender sensitive, it may not be time-bound. Okay. Next one, sixth one. Now here I want everybody to answer. Identify cases that are patentable from given descriptions. Is it measurable? Please, more answers. I think there is a agreement that it is very measurable. Is it very specific? Please, more replies, please. Good. So there is a very good agreement on this question. Please note. Is it achievable? Good. Again, agreement. Oh, somebody says no. Let us see. Is it time bound? Yeah, actually, you can get students to see some examples of patents and train them in about 3-4 months to identify cases that are patentable reasonably, not perfectly. So now compare this with earlier questions. Demonstrate better social commitment to identify cases that are patentable from given description. You understand that the sixth one is very specific and therefore measurable, achievable, and time bound. Whereas the first one in comparison with this looks like quite unclear. And seventh one, develop approach to healthy living. Is it specific? Is it specific? Develop approach to healthy living. Is it specific? Okay, again, good agreement. Oh, you say it is specific. Develop approach to healthy living. Yaswin goes. How is that possible? Because it's such a wide area of healthy living means a large number of things. How do you say it is specific? I do not agree that it is specific. Is it achievable? It is achievable, but not in a time-bound manner, I would say. Maybe many things. Healthy living may be many things. Mental hygiene, physical hygiene, doing exercises, maintaining good human relations. Lot of things. How do you? So I think the number 6 tells us a very good example of what is specific and measurable, and number 7 and some of the others actually tell us how outcome can be not very specific. I again would like to highlight that all these are subjective things. You can debate with me without end that something is measurable or something is specific. So that is taken as the situation. In very scholarly debates, that is taken as the situation. So there is nothing like I have said something is measurable, so therefore it must be measurable. But I hope by comparison you can more or less agree to what I am saying. Next. Next. Now, I would say when you write outcomes, initially it is okay to write non-specific outcomes, but you can make it better by restating to make it specific. But there you have to take some curricular decisions. Let us look at number 5. Number 5. Or let us take number 4, which is more popular. Number 4 says, after a particular course, the student should have functional knowledge of a mobile phone. Should have functional knowledge of a mobile phone. Now, it is not very specific, and therefore it is not measurable directly because you have not stated what is functional knowledge. Can you suggest restatement of this outcome? This restatement can be not just one statement, it can be many statements. So can you suggest how we can restate have functional knowledge of a mobile phone? Yes, please. I think yes or no answers are very quickly answered. This is not, answers are not forthcoming. I will start off. Learn to use mobile to make a call. Jabir, good. To make a call. Yes. Download apps. Very good. Download apps. RC says download apps. So, are there more coming? Please join the discussion. Then only it will be a live stuff. Operate mobile phone for exam paper scanning. Okay, good. So, send emails. Good. Send WhatsApp messages. Receive WhatsApp messages. Forward WhatsApp messages. Install apps. Delete apps. Receive calls. Forward calls. Switch on the mobile phone. Charge the mobile phone. Set alarm. I think it is very clear, isn't it? Instead of saying having functional knowledge of a mobile phone, if you say to attend to video conference. So if you say list these specific ones, then immediately it becomes measurable. Learn new apps. Yes. So I think it must be pretty clear. When you say have functional knowledge of a mobile phone, it is not specific and measurable. But when you split it into small specific deliverables, then it becomes measurable, specific, and achievable and time bound. Whereas this is not at all clear. Our tradition in our country is to write such outcomes. It has no use. It is very ornamental. It has absolutely no use. So we must split it into very specific, change settings whenever required. Yes. Lock, unlock, lot of things. So when you say have better communication skills, similarly, the great exercise is to transform it into a specific outcome. For example, I would say, given details of a context of conversation, to carry on conversation for minimum of 2 minutes. This is how we say one of the aspects of communication skills. I think I have another example. Next one. Next. This is a night photograph. Yeah, next. Okay, can you go to the previous one? Previous slide itself. Previous one. See, look at having basic legal literacy. It is very easy to write this. What do you mean by basic? That can vary from people to people. So this has to be transformed into lot of bullet points. For example, to list the basic rights as per Indian Constitution. Yeah. Not learn. You would say the student should, after the course, the student should be able to list the basic rights of citizens, list basic duties of citizens, or even say in a given context, these are higher things, in a given context of, let us say, given a news report, to read, analyze and understand and identify if there is any violation of basic rights. That is a slightly higher level question. But is that what you mean by having basic legal literacy? Yeah, know to how to file RTI, write an RTI request, to know about gender rights, list specific articles. We can decide which articles, but then only it will be specific. So I think you have all got an idea of what we mean by being very specific. So to write such specific outcomes, it's a Herculean task, but it is very worthwhile task to do. Next one. So if you have an existing syllabus and you want to transform into LOCF, I would say if it is existing syllabus, we don't need to start with designing the syllabus. The syllabus is already there, more or less. You have to do certain things in it. During the process, you will make some changes in the syllabus, but I am assuming you have existing syllabus. The courses for each semester is known. Syllabus for each course, there is a draft is already available. Now look at step 1. This is what I recommend, not what UGC recommends. Write module outcomes for each module. As all of us know, our syllabus for courses are written in terms of 4 or 5 modules. Friends, I assume that you are very, very clear of the new terminology of course and program. Earlier, we used to say BA course, MSW course. But now the terminology is, it is BA program and MA program. And earlier you say MA had 3 papers in the first semester or first year. Now we say we have 3 courses. So the paper becomes a course, and what you earlier used to say as BA course and MA course becomes MA program, BA program, PhD program. It is all programs. So course stands for a paper in the old terminology. So a paper contains many modules, 5 or 6 modules. So I would suggest, UGC has not said about module outcomes, but I would suggest you have to start with the module outcomes. For each module, after learning each module, what will happen? What will be the student be able to do? Then classify the outcomes according to Bloom's taxonomy. I will mention that soon. And then write sample questions to test the outcomes. This has to be done by an individual teacher who is teaching that course, has been teaching that course. This is a major work. So for one full program, I say for example, master's program of 2 years, 4 semesters, I would say there would be around 100 modules. And to set the sample questions for these 100 modules will be a tremendous amount of work. If anyone is interested, I will send you the voluminous work our department did, which contains module outcomes. And we state the module outcome for each module. And we develop questions for each modules to test the outcomes. All of that together is the syllabus. So syllabus is a very huge document. But once you do that, it is going to be of tremendous use to your quality enhancement. Now, I would say, if you write module outcomes, then just generalize the module outcomes and write the course outcomes. So what you test is not the course outcome, you test the module outcomes itself, because modules are very specific. The outcomes are very specific. Now, to write the course outcome after you have written the module outcome is not a big event. It is a minor activity which can be done by an individual teacher. Next. So there are also other levels of outcomes like graduate attributes, program outcomes, program specific outcomes. I would say let the university bodies worry about this, or your school, school authorities worry about it. These are top level outcomes, and individual teachers actually need not worry about this. Once they are, it's very good to actually take all the program outcomes and then look at it and generalize it and make it the program outcome, and look at all the program outcomes and generalize them as graduate attributes. In a graduate attribute, if you add some outcomes, then you have to check back that the courses ensure that these outcomes are achieved. You must go back to the course and check that these are there. So in a way, I would say there should be an integration between all the outcomes. So when you write these outcomes, you have to keep on rewriting each other based on reflecting on each other. Next. These photographs are succeeding. Some photographs are from JNU, the garden in JNU. Okay. Next. So I now come to the higher level outcomes. Graduate attributes is very general and even philosophical outcome of a program. For example, you say students should develop globally competitive skills. You find that this is not at all specific, but it is okay as a graduate attribute. Students should become a lifelong learner. Who knows what it is, but we all say this. Students should be able to apply knowledge to solve real life problems. Now, if some college makes such statements, I will ask them, please bring your MA syllabus. Please show me where each of these are translated into action in your syllabus. That is what I would ask. Okay, next. The last, can you go back? The last statement, students should use education for emancipation of humanity. This is actually a part of the graduate attributes of Kerala University. If anyone of you is interested, you can go to Google and search. Lakshmi, can you do that now? Can you stop the presentation and can you go to Google and make a search and show a small video? Is that okay with you?
Video on what, sir?
Yeah, go to Google. I will give you the keyword search.
Yes.
You stop the presentation and share the Google screen.
Yes, sir. What I am supposed to type?
Okay, you have to type graduate attributes, Kerala University. Are you sharing the screen?
Wait.
Sir, this is Francis. Sir?
Yeah.
Before searching, I want to clarify certain things.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, actually, to frame any objective, we should follow the key elements, like it is the word called SMART. That is very specific. All these things are there, what you have told. But relevance is also important here.
Okay.
I mean, without relevance, we cannot frame any objective. Whether we have to say whether it is important or not, we should also think about the relevance is very important to frame any objectives.
Your point is well taken. This
is one consideration. The second thing is what you recently told about the objectives in the syllabus. See, certain times, see the University Grand Commission. Recently, they have framed certain things. In 2018, they have framed. Maybe after 5 years or 10 years, maybe we do not know what will happen. Maybe some subject experts or some forces will come there and they will change the entire idea. Okay. Before 18, we were following the old pattern of assessment, all these things. Okay. So in this context, what will be the standardized one? Because we have told something, you have made this plan, but whether it is acceptable or not, for that is different. So what will be the in general, what will be the generally accepted framework for learning outcome?
Basically, if you look at universities all over the world, you will find that people make outcome statements in different details. What UGC has suggested is extensive detailing. sometimes very confusing. Actually, if you look up the web, you will see a small book I have written criticizing the UGC LOCF, in which I have specifically said it is overkill. Lot of too many specific things are being worked out, and I'm like make a mention of it towards the end. So I would like to say we should not be academicians should not be living merely for the sake of meeting UGC regulations or NAC regulations, NAC accreditation. We should use our responsibility and our position as teachers to provide the best to the student. And as a necessary requirement of an official system, we will also try to meet the requirements of the UGC and such bodies. But I am a person who I am never, I think that my whole teaching process is to be regulated by UGC regulations. No. That is only a friendly suggestion. To as much as required, I will try to confine to that. But I have my own takes and perceptions on things. Especially UGC's LOCF, the outcome assessment of outcomes and bridging the gap is a terrible mistake, I would say. It is going to take back the education system by every teacher sitting and writing an Excel sheet and finding out in one question 3.5% of students did not achieve the minimum requirement, so I will give you 2 more videos. It looked very, very childish to me. But the rest of the document, I accept there is a lot of good things to adopt. So generally, your question is that, such things can happen. As we put a system into place, then suddenly the government changes policies or another government comes. So I don't have an answer for that. Such things can happen. What you highlighted is very correct. Okay, sir?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. So let us see this video. When I was QAC director, we made a graduate attributes video for the Kerala University. You are seeing that now. So this graduate attributes is just 10 bulleted points, but to make it communicative, we have made it into a beautiful video. Can you put the audio also?
Dr. Lakshmi, you have to share the sound also. So on the top of your screen, there will be 3 dots.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just click down and you will share sound.
Yes, sir. I'll do it, sir. Share, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So this is the highest level of description of what the student should be. These are totally not measurable, not specific. Okay, you can close. Did you all like the video?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. See, the point is, this statement, be a lifelong learner, respect diversity, use education for emancipation of humanity. These are all very philosophical statements, not possible to measure. It's not specific and not possible to measure, but it is fine because you have measurable module outcomes at the lowest level. You have module outcomes which are measurable. Now the point is, a very good institution would be able to point out how some of these module outcomes contribute to the graduate outcomes. That is the point. That is how the crisscrossing of these outcomes are really there. So somebody might say we promote gender sensitiveness, but if you take the curriculum, you find that there is nothing in it about gender sensitivity or communication skills or soft skills. You talk of global competencies, but then you take the syllabus and you ask, where is the global competence being taught? Where it is being tested, there is no place there. So you have to make sure that these are all interconnected and have all been taken care of. Their connections have been taken care of. Okay, resume slideshow. It is showing a small tab.
Yes,
you can say resume.
Yes, sir.
It's already displayed. You just click there. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, go forward. We are actually a few. Next. So program outcomes are more specific than graduate attributes, written for programs with common nomenclature or level. For example, for all UG programs, you can have a common program outcome. For all BSc, all MA, etc. For example, for MSc in science, please note these are also very general, not specific. Demonstrate basic mastery in chosen field of science and allied branches. Practice creative and critical thinking skills. Possess research aptitude. Possess problem solving skills. Be digitally literate. Possess social and environmental commitment. See, this is a point which we can connect to the graduate attributes, where you say you have to have sustainable practices, no sustainable practices. So this also is very, I would say, more or less ornamental. Next. So program specific outcome is for the particular specialization. It is more specific than PO, written for specific program, and actually the PO should be part of PSO, but we can assume that we don't need to restate that. So we can expand some of the program specific outcomes. For example, for all MSc programs, you say mastery in the chosen specialization. So here we convert that into specific statements. Mastery in an industry standard programming language, ability to use modern software engineering methodologies, ability to design normalized databases. See, you see that here we are becoming more specific than the PO. So graduate attribute, PO, PSO, we are becoming more and more specific. And next is course outcome, where we become even more specific. And finally, module outcome, we become explicitly specific. This is how the whole thing is arranged. Next. This is mango from my own home, mango tree, Neelam mango. Next. So the course outcome is more specific than PSO, written for each course in the program. It can be a combination of all module outcomes, MO, or a summarization of it. See the sample of MO below, which can be abstracted as a single CO. Acquire knowledge and skills related to basic syntax and semantics. Okay, next. So module outcome is very specific learning outcomes that are realistically measurable. Next. See the module outcome for a computer science program. After completion of this module, students should be able to list basic data types and exemplify each. Write expressions for given tasks. Predict values of given expressions in C language. Write simple programs employing loops. Predict output of given code snippets. Please look at this. It is actually very specific and therefore very measurable. It is achievable because it has been written with very with the training time in mind. So the module outcomes are very, very, very specific. So look at the syllabus. Earlier to write this, you just had to say basic data types in C, expressions, 4 while loops. But now to list the bullet point module outcomes changes the whole thing. Changes the whole thing. Writing the syllabus is a minor thing. I sometimes think there is no need for a syllabus. Outcomes alone is enough. Next. This is a fruit that elephant eats. In Kerala, it is called a kaida. I do not know what in other languages you say. So it is like a pineapple, but people don't eat. The elephant eats this. We can also eat. It is not. It is very fibrous and not of very agreeable taste.
Pandanas.
Pandanas. Yeah. Same, sir.
Thalampu in Tamil it's called.
Thalam. Thank you, sir. Thank you. In Malayalam also we say tada. So earlier I said the outcomes have to be screw pine. Good. Earlier I said the outcomes have to be classified into different taxonomical levels. I think most of you know this. Yesterday also there was a mention of this. Questions can be converted into 6 levels. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. I have given some indicative words for each of this. And you can say that this classification can be looked upon in many ways. Simple to complex, memory recall to real knowledge, lower order thinking to higher order thinking. These are all phrases which we use to describe these levels. Okay. Next. So here is an activity. Can you please classify these into these levels? That will be the best way to discuss this. So the levels are remember, RE, understand, UN, apply, AP, analyze, AL, evaluate, EV, create, CR. Now, there is a confusion regarding the word understand. When you say understand, that our typical meaning is that we have understood everything. But here, we are simply saying that they are able to demonstrate they have understood it. It can be a very simple thing to do. But even when you have understood, you may not be able to apply. You may not be able to analyze. So those are different levels. Let us look at one by one. List any 3 antiseptic compounds. What level do you think it is? Yeah, please give more replies so that I get a feel of. Yeah, I think everybody agrees to this. It is remember, write a brief public speech on a contemporary issue. Good. You see that there is a difference of opinion. Actually, both what you say are right. When you say write a brief public speech on a contemporary issue, you are creating. And in another way, you are demonstrating the understanding of the issue. And in another way, you are analyzing. So your different responses are all possible. So we just leave it there. It is not very clear. Solve the quadratic equation 5x squared plus 3x plus 8. Okay, there is some people who said different answers, but it is an application. It is obviously an application. It is not enough to understand, but you have to apply. To say that somebody understands how to solve a quadratic equation, they can simply write down the steps. But to really solve it, you have to apply those steps. So this is an application. State the law of diminishing returns. Okay, just to state with no comments, I think it is just remember. List the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. Just list. Just list. Okay. Remember. The majority says remember. There is nothing called a free lunch. Justify this for free email services. Okay. Okay, there is some variation, but you see that there is an evaluation element in it. So most people have voted for evaluation. Some say understanding. I also agree to what you say. There is a sense in what you are saying. But I hope you see that there is an evaluation component which is very prominent. Critically comment on the new development index proposed by Professor so and so. Okay. Analyze and evaluate. Many are saying analyze and evaluate. Good. List 3 popular streams of world theatre. Remember. Good. Friends, I think by this discussion, a couple of things emerged. It is not always very rigid to say what is the class of a question, and it is very often a possibility to classify a question into adjacent classes. For example, somebody say understand, somebody says apply. That is quite possible. But what somebody says as remember is not typically create. But a very, very funny fact is that, in fact, everything can be remembered. For example, if the quadratic equation is already known to the student, teacher says such quadratic equations, 3 kinds will be given. These are the 3 questions. One of them will come. Then one student by hearts the solution, the steps of the solution, and just writes it down. And then the student degenerates this question into remember. See, when you say analyze the causes of the Second World War, you suddenly understand, you suddenly feel that it is analyze question. But a student has learned this essay by heart and just writes it. So it is remember. So this danger is always there. We are talking of a lot of things, but on the ground, it might all boil down to remember, unless you set your question paper very effectively. My favorite example of the difference in remember and other levels is, see, after teaching Indian independence struggle, one student is asked this question: when did India get independence? And that student has learned by heart and knows very well in school, let us say in school. So writes 1947. Suppose the question was, do you think India is really independent? This is an evaluation question, a very high level question to which very different answers can come. So that is what levels of taxonomy really mean. So our examination system, we must try to analyze and see if our questions are spread out in all of these levels. While I was in charge of the Quality Assurance Council in Kerala University, I collected all the question papers of the university for 1 year, many hundreds of question papers, and entrusted a team of educationists to classify all questions into these 6 categories. And then I drew a histogram of it for that whole year and analyzed what we are doing with the examinations. If somebody wants to see this report, you can look up the Kerala University IQAC website, and there is a report called Questioning the Questions. This report is an analysis of our examination system. Okay, next. So there is a controversial area. I think most of the institutions and universities are trying to train teachers to measure achievement of outcomes with very great complicated Excel sheets and very nasty data processing work. I would say outcomes at different levels need to be mapped and measured, but if you have tightly integrated them, there is no need to do any of that. You have set model questions to test the module outcomes, all you have to do is to ensure that your examinations questions take this as models, follows these models. And then by design, our outcomes are measured by the traditional assessments. There is nothing more that is required to do. This is my take on it. I disagree with what UGC is doing on this particular level. All other things are okay. Next. This is a wall sculpture in the back of my, at the backside of my department. Unfortunately, it is alone now. There are no students in the campus. I don't even know whether this sculpture has fallen down. Next. Next, please. Oh, previous. Can you go to the previous one? Next slide. Oh, this is the next slide. Yeah,
Yes,
this is
previous one, sir. This is previous one, sir.
Okay, go to the next one.
This one. Next is this.
Next.
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Oh, why did you jump?
No, I didn't jump, sir.
One slide, I think it jumped. Okay, it doesn't matter. So sample questions, the whole beauty of outcome-based education, or I would say we don't need to call it outcome-based education. That means well thought out examinations. Look at this for the soft skill course. Discuss 3 different aspects of personality and cite one example of a well-known personality who excels in that aspect in your opinion. Briefly explain multiple intelligence theory and share your assessment about the type of intelligence you have observed in yourself. Explain any 3 different body language postures and their interpretations in a conversational setting. Subjects like soft skills have to be, the assessment has to be practical also, like watching the student doing group discussion or making presentations. But this is an example of a written exam, if at all it is required. Okay, next. Next. Okay. Next. So the assignments, tests, and examinations, previous. Assignment, tests, and examinations have to be designed with great amount of care and with sufficient time and creativity. I have a few things to say here. So if you do that, they will in turn affect learning habits and outlook of students and trigger the much awaited academic transformation in our campus. See, I will tell you an example. A very great teacher goes to a classroom and teaches a subject with great amount of difference, talking about practical significances and current trends and all that. But while he starts teaching, one of the students came to the class during the break and said, "Hey, don't listen to this guy. Look at this question paper for the last 3 years. The very simple questions, very basic questions are being asked, and most questions are being repeated with rephrasing. Why listen to all this? You just prepare these questions and write, you get good marks." So some students fall for it. They ignore what the teacher says. They think that he is going out of syllabus. That is a favorite word that they use. What is happening here is you are seeing the kind of power of examinations. The examination question paper, unknown to us, influences the whole educational process. So I would say that the most important thing we need to do if you are interested in transforming education system is to transform the question paper. I have many things to say about it. For example, the way that question papers are set, a teacher is given a task to set a question paper, maybe 2 days or 3 days is given. The teacher suddenly has to sit down and make questions. I, as a teacher with more than 3 decades of experience, I believe that the greatest questions are set immediately after a lecture is over. When you are in a class and delivering a lecture, your mind is fully applied to that topic, and when student raises questions and all, you are in touch with that particular topic, you come back to the staff room, spend 10 minutes to write some questions. Those will be the greatest questions. Questions cannot come after 2 months after the examination or 2 months before the semester starts. You cannot write questions. After every hour on that topic, you can come back and sit and write questions. They will be great. They will be unique. This is one take-home message that I have to give. Next, again. Next. So one more activity and we will finish. See, outcomes for a course in mobile phone proficiency. So after the completion of the course, learner, I think this activity is homework. After the completion of the course, learners would be able to, one, switch off and switch on and off a smartphone, make phone calls, save phone numbers, download apps. I suggest you to write 10 more and then write what is the Bloom's taxonomy level. But please note here, Bloom's taxonomy is for cognitive domain, but the mobile phone operation is mostly physical or kinesthetic, and you cannot possibly write for all of this. So this small slide that I'm showing now, you can work on it and get a good feel of what is meant by outcome-based education. Next. So this is a course in academic honesty. After completion of the course, learners would be able to critically discuss a standard definition of plagiarism, list some standard tools for plagiarism, summarize action points from UGC guidelines on plagiarism. You can write more. This is again a take-home activity. You write down and get a feel of how outcomes are produced. Next. Full of mangoes. Next. So this is my Department of Computational Biology and Bioinformatics, where I used to work, but now closed down because of the lockdown. Next. All green. Next. I think the slides have come to an end. Now, I've been speaking for a very long time, but now it is time for you to raise questions and have a discussion. I hope it has been useful. I reiterate, whatever I said is my opinion. I am very sure you all have your own convictions, your own opinions. So what you have to do is you have to consider what I said and consider your own opinions and takes and possibly fuse them together to something new. Now, it is always not necessary that what I said is a final word on anything. I don't have any such notion. Okay, so over to the participants to raise questions.
Thank you very much, sir, for making a very participative session today. So now is the floor for the question answer. Anybody have any doubts, you can clarify with sir, or you can put it in chat box also.
I also, like Dr. Francis said earlier, it need not always be questions. You can also just share your views. You know, that is also most welcome. Many of you have very unique teaching experiences. Each of us have. Each of us have our own perception. So it always need not be questions. You can just pop in with your comment.
Yes.
May I, sir? This is
please do.
Sir, I have been listening to this, outcome-based learning since yesterday. Very thought-provoking. Both the classes are, both the sessions were very thought-provoking. But after listening to the 2-day session, I come to kind of like very low, feeling very low, particularly because, as a researcher, we have kind of a understanding about setting hypothesis, prove, disprove. And then sometime we go for explorative research. And when you have a hypothesis setting research type, then your mind is very much tuned to, you just go for prove or disprove, not beyond it. And then you work only towards, what is expected of proving and disproving. And now, as I have been listening to all these things, I come to a kind of understanding that this limitation of teaching, the exploration of teaching in the class may have, become very constrained with these kind of measurable or, specific outcomes or, something. I do not know. I get a feeling like that. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you. That's it.
What's your subject?
I am from Social Entrepreneurship Department. By
What's your
training,
name?
I am RSC. By training, I am Development Studies student.
RSC means school, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Arashi, I would like to tell you I completely agree with what you said. Even though I made this lecture, to me, I would just like to be left alone. No, I am never satisfied with my own teaching. I continuously try to improve myself. So, as you rightly pointed out, putting a grid over top of education system and saying, you know, this question has to be here, this question has to be here, such and such things have to be mentioned, etc., is actually straitjacketing the whole academic system. I completely agree with your concern. However, you know, let us not come to a conclusion that present system is all perfect, so we don't want this. No. So I am always a person who thinks, when you hear a new thing, why don't you look at it with curiousness and try to adopt some of those things from that new perception, and as much as your own philosophy of education permits. I do not know whether you have the freedom to do that, but you know, as a university professor, I have the freedom to do that. So I don't go by what the UGC document says, unless, of course, somebody is putting so much pressure on documentation and all that. A few things I do concede as a part of the system. But as you rightly said, you cannot be like with a horse with just looking at a particular point. It should not be. So I'm warm to what you said. You have a very important point to make. I hope the participants also benefit by you raising this point. Arashi, you are okay with my response to your remarks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you look at my document upon the web, on my website, this document on outcome-based education is there. At the end of it, I have severely criticized the UGC. Severely, just once. It's a very small document, but in one page is kept for criticizing the UGC.
Particularly, we go for this multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary. You know, the idea of opening up everything without borders. We teach all these things, but now when we pick up assessing measurable things, how could we, you know, limit our questions towards multidisciplinary, intradisciplinary, cross-disciplinary questions into measurable things? I am thinking about all those things.
No, I would say, you know, I started with a quote saying that anything that exists in some measure and therefore is measurable. So I am not questioning that some things are not measurable. I would say some things are very difficult to measure. Some things are very difficult to define. But we need not reject the whole idea that none of this can be done. So in my department, what I did was, I said, when I stated outcomes, I said, I put 10 outcomes for a course. And I said, additionally, I said, any other outcomes that are evolved during the curricular transaction by the teacher. So there is a freedom for the teacher to say, I have more outcomes. And those outcomes need not be specific and measurable. Those can be decided by the teacher. So my suggestion is, I'm critical of everything, but I look at curiously to see if there are some good things that can be adapted in whatever ways, with whatever modifications. So let us, my suggestion to you is that to look at it with curiosity and take some of it, not the whole of it.
Thank you.
Can we generalize this course outcome, that is out-based education, to across all types of colleges? Because we have rural students, tier 3, tier 2. So do we need to customize according to the colleges, number one? And whenever we frame the course objectives or course outcomes, should we match with the students' ability? We have a concept of competency mapping in HR. Likewise, whenever we frame the course outcome or course specific outcome, should we match with the students' skill, knowledge?
Yeah, ideally yes, but as you yourself hinted, it is a very complicated matter. Whether we should tune the academic content to levels of the student, or rather bridge them to come to the same level, these are very, very complicated questions. I don't have an answer for you, but I appreciate the relevance of what you just now pointed out. Regarding various institutions having same outcomes and all, I would say no. The reason is that you train all the institutions to produce outcomes, but let them do it independently, because otherwise the diversity of our educational system will be lost. New experiments cannot come up if all the outcomes are decided centrally and given to everyone. The diversity of our education system will suffer. So I'm not a proponent of that. I would say general guidelines can be given, some minimum conformance can be given, but it's never nice to have a very tight control over what each institution is doing.
Sir, whenever we do the mapping, sir, for course outcome and program outcomes, do we have any scientific evidence for that we have mapped correctly, we have measured correctly, low, medium, high? Okay, for example, students attain low level, medium level, high level with regard to the mapping. That should be scientific.
I have come to that. I have mentioned that point. I don't agree with that whole microscopic kind of an analysis at all. I often cite this. I have mentioned in my small booklet also, free booklet also. The British Teachers Union. I went to their website once and I saw they have a strange demand. They said, please let us teach. Please don't tie us down with Excel sheets every day, where you have to give a lot of documentation about what you taught, how you taught, and how the student performed. And finally, if 40 to 50% of your time is taken up in documenting these things, which could have been very profitably used in interacting with the students and spending time for preparing for the classes, etc. So this mapping stuff is an extremely time-consuming and confusing thing. That I would say, if by design all your course outcomes, program outcomes, and module outcomes are mapped by design, then what is the need of measuring it? You just set the questions, assessment questions, according to the models that have been created to test the module outcomes. Everything should automatically fall in place. This is my take on it.
Any more questions from the participant?
Good evening, sir. I'm Satyamurthy, sir, from Industrial Social Work. Sir, actually, I was thinking back of mind. So, in both in Howard Gardner's as well as Bloom's taxonomy, and when way beginning, almost 26 years or 27 years, when we studied our graduation, post-graduation, when I was studying, I was thinking about Gardner's as well as Bloom's taxonomy was in place, but it was not documented, as you said. Because where we had in terms of kinesthetic or bodily kinesthetic or physical, whatever we talk about, it was there in the teaching methodology where the teachers were taught about it and we were exposed to do all this, but we are not documented. And now even Bloom's taxonomy also, when we were a student, almost when I studied in 90s, my post-graduation and graduation, so where I was looking at most of the Bloom's taxonomy process was going, I was thinking of back of mind when I was drafting for this Bloom's taxonomy for question paper setting process guidelines. I was thinking, as you said, and out of 100%, now it is going to be a teachers having a very hectic job of documenting a lot of things instead of teaching or instead of doing research. And I do understand, yes, we need to do that. As very beautifully pointed out yesterday and today, and even day for yesterday, sir has beautifully pointed out the relevance of change. Yes, change is inevitable, but at the cost of the art of teaching and the quality check. We are talking about quality. And in 1983, when Gardner was talking about intelligence, multiple intelligence, now in 2021, we are talking about 2020, we are talking about Gardner, but it still is achieved in I think 10-15 years before itself in education. So what I would like to say is that the heart of teaching is going to be little deviated in the name of quality, in the name of documentation. That's what I was looking at. But the requirement of document is required, but at the cost of teaching. That is the highlight which was going in my mind from almost 1.5 years before, when I attended UGC workshop in Hyderabad for the controller of examinations, where we are talking about the Bloom's taxonomy, how we have to do remembering to the evaluation, what we talk about. So yes, we do document a lot of things. And even when you talk about NAC process or any accreditation process, yes, is that we do more of business orientation or service orientation. And when you do go for a service orientation, we need to look at more on service delivery instead of the quality check. We are deviating the purpose of teaching into teaching, research and practice into more of quality orientation in the name of quality, the name of scoring, in the name of accreditation. Is that a right way of bringing a next generation of education in this country?
I am very warm to many of the points that you raised. Accreditation has become, it has replaced the ideals of education and replaced it with a grid of points, lifeless points, which people are trying to meet, which need not necessarily mean you have quality education. Even though a quality institution might also fit in those grid. You have a lot of soulless things going on in academic institutions. For example, there is 2 marks for parent-teacher association, and my university, I'm instructed to hold that parent-teacher meeting. But all over the world, have you heard of institutions where adults are studying, where you have a parent-teacher association? You could have a meeting, to talk about their funding them, there could be some informal meeting with them. But this is a school concept. An adult is not controlled by the parent. It is an independent person, and it will be a very, my biodata was read, I applied for a PhD, second PhD at the age of 47. And I was taken aback when I filled the application form. At one end, there is a statement to be given by my father. 87-year-old father writes that I will be responsible for all this stuff that this guy does in the university, and he has to sign off. But what is the point? We do not know. So a lot of lifeless, meaningless things are being done in terms of meeting this grid requirement of the NAC. But what can we do? We are ordinary teachers. When you are in a system, some of these evil things we have to, necessary evil, I would say, you have to do that. But then I would also say we teachers also have a life out of this. I go into a classroom for 1 hour, nothing matters. UGC doesn't matter to me, NAC doesn't matter to me, outcome-based education doesn't matter to me. It is my world. I make a small test paper in the classroom. What that test paper should be is my world. And I would actually ask, what is the change that you have brought in there? And if you are a person who are changing there, you are trying out things, and you are doing improvements, then I would say, you are achieving quality in your own way. We don't bother about what NAC brands your institution as. This I agree. Regarding Gardner and Bloom, I would say, what you said, maybe your personal perception that, earlier also such things were done. I would say, well, we all go by our personal perceptions, but before we come to a final conclusion on it, we must do a data collection. So if you ask me about whether Bloom's taxonomy, the levels are being catered to in the question papers in my university, I will say no, because I have a report. I have a report of hundreds of question papers analyzed by educationists, categorized, and then a histogram is drawn. And it shows there is a skew towards the basic skills, basic levels. And very rarely you have creative, critical thinking questions at the other end. In fact, the surprising observation in Kerala University is that it is in English that most critical thinking, analytic questions are being asked, not in science. Anyways, that is one point. Howard Gardner, we could say we have a lot of instances of people far ahead of Howard Gardner who used multiple intelligences, but not knowing that it is a virtue. It is simply that, it suited them. For example, I remember when you said this, I remember a mathematics teacher who would come and sing mathematical equations in songs. There is some song called Vanjipat in Kerala. So, it is so very prominent rhythm for Kerala that you put an equation into that rhythm, then students will never slip. They will always be able to do that. Now, this teacher is actually using musical intelligence to teach mathematics, but he doesn't know Gardner. I wouldn't say that he was a head of Gardner. You know, these are what did Gardner do? Gardner actually put together commonsensical things into a theoretical framework. So in patches, multiple intelligence would have been used by teachers. In patches, Bloom's taxonomy would have been seen in question papers. But I would say there is nothing wrong in making a concerted effort to do that. But as most of the comments here, people who commented, including you, sir, I also agree that you shouldn't overkill. This all should not be carried to a frenzy. And you assume that when an Excel sheet is filled and everything is complete, education has quality. I would have liked to just say a quote, my own quote. If we wear helmet so that police does not catch us, if that is the case, then our education must be for earning marks, earning NAC grade. That is the final take on these systems. These are necessary evils. Never for a moment think that that is your ideal goal in education.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Actually, as you said, sir, actually, I know you are a computer science background. I am mathematics students. I remember my own maths teacher was teaching about maths by, singing song. I remember my own mathematics student, Mr. Kannan, sorry, sir, Krishnan sir was teaching about maths. So in computer science, to add on what you said, yes, it is a necessary evil we have to undergo. As we are languages by Oracle 8i I studied, then it went on 9.0. Now it is changes inevitable for any quality check. Only one concern for me is that as the innovation in terms of theory building, for example, a lot of theories, a lot of research, a lot of innovations are teachers are not able to do because of in the name of quality check. We are losing our innovations, losing our knowledge building process in terms of theories, patterns, scales. All this it may not be happening. I fear actually it may happen. I fear in terms of quality check, which we go into deep into quality assurance process. Yes, it is inevitable. We have to do. We will do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Normally, people from the field, that is the market, always tells, be it engineering or social sciences, they tell that there's a big gap between what is happening outside in the world and your curriculum. Is there some way to deploy this learning outcome based, all this framework to bridge that gap? Is there a possibility?
Yeah. I would say, I would take that question, respond to that question in two ways. One, let us not always be thinking that our program is aimed to cater to the business world or to the outside world alone. For example, think of a person who is going to do research. The skills and kind of attitudes that he has, free thinking attitudes he has or she has, may not be of relevance to the every business house, but we still instill that. So that is one point, that we should not always integrate our programs merely with the complete requirement of the business. So I will tell you a very bad effect of that. So in many language programs or undergraduate programs, people are saying, don't teach literature, teach language for effective communication. Now, you don't need Shakespeare and Kalidasa, because the business house does not need Shakespeare and Kalidasa. What they need is, your students should be able to take a phone call from US and be able to communicate very effectively. This is their requirement. But what is the society's requirement? Is the society happy with the person who can take call from America, but who has no sense of the society, who is not kind to his fellow human beings? No, Kalidasa and Shakespeare does exactly that. Wake up your innate sense of aesthetics, innate sense of humanness, innate sense of brotherhood. So that the company doesn't want. So what we do is we throw away Shakespeare and put in spoken English or translation. So I would say, I'm not saying don't teach communicative English, but in a very meaningful way, we say, okay, we have a bit of literature, we'll take a little bit of space to also teach them communication skills. But we find in many places very eminent scholars coming in saying, what is the use of teaching Shakespeare? Now, I'm not specifically batting for Shakespeare, whether it is Shakespeare or a modern literature. Learning poems and novels and stories and all that have a very, very important role in waking up your humanness. So whether the company needs that or not is should not overrun our whole curriculum design. That is what I would say. Now, to answer your question, when the outcomes are designed, we must take a review from business houses, from poets, from politicians. They will be able to look at this and say very unique responses. So from the business houses, maybe more, because we want the students to get jobs all said and done. So they can actually make some comments about the outcomes. We can accommodate that, but don't lose sense of your own broad view of the whole curriculum. That's all.
So this is Gajendran. I have one philosophical question. Shall I go ahead?
Please.
Yeah. Sir, so far we are speaking about Bloom's taxonomy and how students are learning, and we are trying to measure what they have learned. It's all about, I'm just asking this question from the background of Paulo Freire, who has written the book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, where he's severely criticized the banking system of knowledge, and he says that students are not empty boxes where you can put the knowledge inside. Students are also knowledge creators of knowledge. So how far we can give such a space in this academic system, allow students also students to create their knowledge. So this I feel that how to go ahead with this.
Paulo Freire once went to a school for farmers, and he took a class, it seems. I read about it. And what he did was, he told them, there is a game, going to be a game. I will say, I will ask you some things. If you don't know, I will tell you. Then you have to ask me certain things. If I don't know, you will tell me. This is a game. So he asked some things about what he wanted to lecture, and the farmers did not know. So he told them. And the farmers asked him, do you know when to do the harvest and how to, do this and that? And he did not know. And they all laughed. They thought he was a fool because he doesn't know even very basic things. So they replied back to him. So both of them were being teachers to each other. Both of them were being students to each other. Now, the point I would like to make is that nothing prevents us from practicing it in our classroom. I already told in that 1 hour, no NAC or UGC comes into your room. It is your personal take how to hold a class. So create critical pedagogy if you want to implement. I don't think any institution will come into your classroom and ask, who asked you to do critical pedagogy? So I would say, in my 30 years of teaching, I've felt that there is more of things that there is space for us to do which we haven't done, than worry about a lot of things which the system does not permit you to do. Many things that, so I'm a person who looks at what can be done within our wherewithal. I'm not Buddha, Jesus, or Gandhi to be doing path-breaking, world-moving things. Very small, humble person. But for each humble person, God has given a very small space around them where they can actually be effective. But you don't think of scaling it. You have 3 students with you. Have you influenced them? Have you put them through a critical pedagogy? Have you practiced multiple Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence in interacting with them? Have you woken up their multiple intelligences? So I would say we have a huge academic arena that is driven by UGC, by managements, institutions and organizations. You also have a very small world of your own where none of these matter. None of these matter. So I would say Paulo Freire can be reflected in your teaching. Howard Gardner can be reflected in your teaching. Jerome Bruner can be reflected in your teaching. Nobody will look. Nobody will question. Nobody will interfere. So this is my feeling. I've worked in many institutions. I would say none of these institutions intervened in what I do inside a classroom. That is a very big space. If you are happy about that space, say for example, let us look at the question paper model. We can say, well, I agree to Bloom's taxonomy, but the university sends these question papers which are of very nasty thing. But then I would say you have 40% of internal assessment. What did you do with those questions? Are they the greatest models you have? If so, then you don't worry about what the university is doing. At least in your part, you have done well. That is my take on this. Your question is philosophical, but mine is pragmatic.
Thank you very much.
I would not like to ask a question. I would like to make a point.
Yeah, please.
To all the participants, a word about the chief guest. I did not know him personally, but I've heard him from different venues, seen some of his documents. He's a person, a professor par excellence. In spite of constraints, in spite of all the logistical hurdles he has in a rigid university system, though he has simplified and spoken to you in a very simple, I would say, down-to-earth system, he would stand a class apart. I'm sure this 2 hours you have all experienced that. I would appreciate some of you go through some of his documents, books, publications, then you'll know who Achyut Shankar is. So let us not take the cherry from the top and leave the bottom. There's a lot of content, a lot of preparation, and the way he's able to simplify and explain to us at our level is the greatest art. So in this learning process, all my fellow colleagues, teachers, let us all learn. Let us open the windows and let good air come in from all sides. I'm happy many of you asked many good questions and the way he answered. But the way he answered was very simple, but then he does a lot of work. There are two sides to it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this very beautiful, creative, and excellent talk.
Thank you. Thank you for the very kind words. I also echo one thing that you said, that the teachers here have made a very rich discussion by raising many pertinent points, and I also enjoyed this talk by the way of these interactions.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering the audience in a very practical way, sir. Thank you so much. We come to an end of the program. Now I would like to invite Evangeline Madam to give vote of thanks.
Before that, I will do my own vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I would like to thank the Madras School of Social Work. Is it the name of the institution?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For giving me this opportunity. I am a Madrasi guy, in the sense that I get a lot of invitations from Madras to speak. Before the lockdown, I used to come very often to Madras, to the Madras Christian College. Is it MCC's Madras Christian College?
Yes.
That's the last time I came out of Kerala.
After lockdown, you should come, sir.
I will. Please invite.
Our principal is here.
Okay, I will come. So I came to Madras Christian College and to one of the private universities there, Hindustan University. I have lectured in the Madras Music Academy twice, to the Kalakshetra, many places, and I'm very happy that I'm still being invited during the lockdown from Madras. Thank you so much, and I consider it a great privilege that I have been able to interact with a group of diverse teachers who are very inquisitive and very active in their mind. So thank you.
Apart from Madras School, there are other teachers also participating in your program, sir, from across. There are quite a big number there.
Okay. Hello to all of them, and my pranams to all the teachers in you. Thank you.
Madras School has been very open to inviting others.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Evangeline Madam to say what happens.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to everyone. On behalf of the Faculty Development Committee of Madras School of Social Work, I deem it a privilege to thank our respected resource person, Dr. Achyut Shankar Nair, Professor of Computer Science, Head Department of Computational Biology and Bioinformatics, for his consensus to grace this FDP with his address on the topic Outcome-Based Education. Sir, we thank you for sparing your very valuable time despite your routine schedules. We also thank you for the resourceful presentation on outcome-based education, which was really lively with lots of activities and that one video on graduate attributes, which was really interesting, and also few appealing photographs which invoked our attention now and then. Thank you so much, sir. I would then like to thank our management and our principal for giving us the opportunity, encouragement, and support to organize this wonderful FDP. I must mention our deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Joseph Injodi, sir, former director, Rajagiri College, for enabling us organize this FDP, helping us in sourcing the resource person, and also for his active participation daily. We thank our very own faculty members for their active participation, their motivation and support. I earnestly thank the participants who have come from other colleges for their involvement in this FGP and sparing their time. And we hope this enthusiasm will continue till the last day of the program. I thank my very own organizing team for ensuring that this FDP runs smooth without any technical glitches. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.